Welcome to the Steroids Podcast with your host, Dan the Bodybuilder from Thailand. Boom! Boom! Let's get started here. The Steroids Podcast is brought to you by Ultimate Guide to ROIDS, 109-page ebook by Dan the Bodybuilder from Thailand. Now, for the first time in bodybuilding history, you have someone with no corporate interests and no obligation to please anyone, not walking on eggshells to not offend. Ultimate Guide to ROIDS gives you the information, the whole truth, not a full truth and a half truth, full truth. Ultimate Guide to ROIDS gives you the keys to the Lamborghini, gives you the information, and lets you decide what to do with it. It's a crime this information has been suppressed this long. Now let's get on with the podcast. All right, welcome back to another episode of the Steroids Podcast. It's been a little while. So the reason why it took a while to get a new podcast episode out was because I got the flu really bad. And it lasted about 3-4 weeks of the flu, which really sucked. But I took some vitamin D3 injections and took my zinc and took about the last week probably took about 5,000 milligrams of vitamin C a day, and things cleared up. So I'm back. The last episode we talked about deca versus testosterone or something, or not deca versus testosterone, but deca only, right? Cycling without testosterone. You know what? Before, I had those 3 podcasts that came out like back to back to back, like each week, so I know that it was kind of like teasing you to then make you go wait this past month. Honestly, I wish I could have gotten it out earlier, but when I record the episodes, I want you guys to have a good time listening. So if I feel like shit, I can't really record the episode. But yeah, so the deca only episode, a few people said like what? So this is the way to do it? Deca only? Or like it's better to cycle without test? And no, actually using testosterone is really freaking good, That was just to supply you guys with an alternative viewpoint, right? So, or another way to do things. So, you should use your own head. And if you're having problems with testosterone, if you're a person who has tried testosterone, I'd really highly recommend trying to use testosterone in high dosages. If you want to be a bodybuilder, if you want to be big and strong, if you want to be big and strong just in general, not even just if you want to be a bodybuilder, I'd really recommend using testosterone at least 1,000 milligrams a week as a baseline. And then, if you're having big time problems with that and if you've tried to use letrozole to cover up your estrogen, if that's where the problems were coming from, and, that's not working for you, whatever. Or, if you're somebody who's really sensitive to hair loss, and you don't want that, and testosterone is causing that, well, then you could try this thing where you use equipoise as a base or deca as a base, and leave the testosterone out. So that's I wanted to clarify that I wasn't with the episode wasn't saying like surprise, no more testosterone is good. It was just saying, for you guys that were wondering, here's another way to do things. There isn't just one way to do things. There are multiple ways to do things. We can use our own brains to figure out which one is best for us. All right, and the next thing I wanted to say was that if you're using human growth hormone, I have been impressed by how many people have contacted me who have listened to the podcast and told me that they're now using pharmaceutical grade growth hormone and having great results. People have really taken that to heart. That I've really kind of harped on that on the podcast, that, nothing else will suffice. You need pharmaceutical grade growth hormone. And quite a few people have let me know that, they're using that now. And I've been impressed by their resolve to do the right thing. Because again, you don't need to use much at all, only a few IUs a day, and it will have a bigger impact than, like 20 or 30 IUs a day of generic. You guys, just to let you know, I've really done the generic thing personally. I've taken, over 1,000 IUs of generic growth hormone easily during my bodybuilding life. And, I've even taken up to like over 40 IUs a day of generic growth hormone. Because I was just like, fuck, I got to get rid of this stuff. And so, you know what? 40 IUs a day of that bullshit isn't even as good as 2 IUs a day of pharmaceutical grade, okay? And I used the stuff that was tested, and it was better than pharmaceutical grade. It tested out that it had 14 IUs a vial instead of 10 IUs a vial. I've used a bunch of different sources. I've used, people who were like famous, their source, for generic growth hormone. Really, it's so shitty. It's so shitty. And you know what the thing that is cool is that if you use pharmaceutical grade growth hormone, it doesn't even really give you water retention if you stay under like 4 or 5 IUs a day, maybe 6, and as long as you're eating a pretty clean diet, it doesn't even really give you like barely any water retention at all. Whereas generic is a water bomb. So that's another thing. So I wanted to mention that in order to get the most out of your growth hormone, you're going to need to use some thyroxine with it. So I haven't really mentioned this so much in the past, but I've gone through phases on and off using thyroxine, T4, thyroid hormone with my growth hormone. And, from my experimentation, it's really like a night and day difference between using growth hormone with and without T4 thyroxine thyroid hormone. So the difference between T4 and T3 is that T3 is active, T4 is inactive. So the conversion process when the T4 is converted into active T3 is an anabolic process. It's a very anabolic process. And it upregulates all of your genes that have to do with your growth hormone response. And so, this is why the T3, very catabolic, does not help your response to the growth hormone. The T4, very not catabolic, pretty damn anabolic, because of what it makes your growth hormone do when you take it. So, 100 micrograms, 200 micrograms, 300 micrograms per day. You have to experiment with it. T4 makes a fairly enormous difference with your growth hormone use. As far as the speed of your metabolism, and just how big you get, how full and muscular you get, how well your growth hormone is working. Another thing that works really good with growth hormone is metformin. And I know that you read so much shit online about how metformin is not a bodybuilding drug, and you hear all these gurus and stuff saying that like, oh, metformin is a no-go, but you can ignore them, okay? Because they know that a lot of pro bodybuilders use metformin, okay? It's a fact. A lot of pro bodybuilders use metformin. And whether gurus want to say, that they do or not, or people want to bring up scientific papers or something that says that it's good or bad, it doesn't matter. Using metformin with your growth hormone will make you bigger, okay? Sorry. Just try it. This is another one of those things where it's like you read all this science and shit, and people are like, oh, the IGF-1 or something. And it's like, okay, so you have your science. Well, now try it and see what happens. And it's like a week later, you're like bigger and fuller than you've ever been in your fucking life. These fucking morons, dude. I swear. The religion of science. Oh my God, it's such a scam. The religion of science. It's all about experience, guys. With science as a something to help guide you. But experience trumps all. Yeah, so the other day, yeah, I'm not in Turkey anymore. I was in Turkey. You know, I was in Istanbul after I left Antalya, Turkey, and I was in Istanbul, Constantinople, and I was walking down the street. I was at a stoplight, and I was drinking a concentrated protein milk. So it's a milk with like probably 500 milliliters, but it's got 30 grams of protein in it, and they have a lot of that in Turkey. And so I was drinking it, and this guy about 50 years old or so, random guy at the stoplight, Turkish guy, says to me, he points at my protein drink and he says, "Is that all you take?" And I said, no, I also take testosterone. And he goes, "Oh," and that was the end of the conversation. So he saw me, he saw my protein, my protein milk. He needed answers. He's been wondering, obviously. What do these muscle guys take? Is it just the protein? Or are they taking steroids? And I told him the truth. So probably for the rest of his life now, whenever anybody tries to lie to him or whatever, he ain't going to be taking no bullshit because some random guy at the stoplight that he asked, "Is that protein drink all you take?" Told him no. He also takes testosterone. And there were some other guys, they were younger guys. They were listening in. You know, when he asked that, they really caught their attention. And they were also hanging on my every word. And when I said testosterone, they all started laughing. All right. One other thing before we get to the questions is that, you know, nutrient partitioning is real, okay? Different foods have different metabolic pathways. They activate certain genes in your body that have to do with muscle building or fat burning. Not all calories are created equal. You know, for example, there's the thermic effect of food where, you know, every gram of protein that you eat, just digesting that takes a gram of energy. So even though a gram of protein contains 4 calories, the net calories from that is only 3. So, for example, if you want to drive your metabolism, you eat 300 grams of protein, right? That's 1,200 calories. Well, because of the fact that you ate 300 grams of protein, you're burning an extra 300 calories that day because of the thermic effect of eating the protein. The cost of digestion for each gram is 1 calorie. So 300 grams, that's 300 calories. So you ate 300 grams of protein. Well, you just increased your metabolic rate by 300 calories, okay? If you're trying to diet, don't starve yourself. Eat a fuckload of protein, okay? Drive your metabolism. Don't send your body into starvation mode. Also, you know, all calories are not created equal. If you drink 2,000 calories of sugar water versus if you eat 2,000 calories of chicken breast, it's going to make you look different. All right. People just get hung up on this science shit, man. Their religion of science. Their if it fits your macros, okay? There's more to it. Those are the basic, you know, if it fits your macros is a very basic principle for beginners who don't know anything and they just need something to help them, okay? But, you know, if you want to optimize your results, it's definitely not if it fits your macros. You should be eating a healthy diet. Not to mention, if you're turning your car your body into a hot rod, a Ferrari, by using performance-enhancing drugs, you know that you have to put premium fuel in the hot-rodded car, the Ferrari, or else it will totally clog up the engine and turn it into a piece of shit rod. So if you just go eating all of the shit food and you're wanting to do that, you're not wanting to eat the meat, the little bit of vegetables, and some carbs that are preferably vegetables, stuff like potatoes and stuff, rice, then you're putting the unleaded gasoline instead of the premium, super grade, super unleaded gasoline in your Ferrari. And you know what? Your Ferrari's going to get fucking clogged up. And then it's going to need major repairs at the auto shop, aka the hospital. All right. First question of the day. Elias asks, "Hey Dan, got some questions for the amazing podcast. I get my gear by ordering it. They are offering Norditropin and Genotropin pens. My concern is that if they ship it, will the time it is not cold affect the quality of the HGH? I read that the growth hormone pens already come mixed." Yeah, when the growth hormone in the pens, so the Genotropin Pfizer growth hormone pens, they don't come pre-mixed. When you get them, there's one like section of the container. Basically, you twist the pen, and then two compartments in a barrel inside the pen mix. One is the powdered growth hormone, one is the water, and then it mixes, and then the growth hormone's ready to be used, the growth hormone pen. With the Norditropin, it's pre-mixed, so it comes already as a liquid. But the Norditropin has a very good preservative in it that allows it to be outside the refrigerator without having any kind of degradation for 3 to 4 weeks. And it's the same thing with the Genotropin pens, because it's freeze dried, and then also as well as other freeze dried growth hormone. If they've never been used before, including the Norditropin pre-mixed pen, because of the preservative that it has, they can withstand being at room temperature for 3 to 4 weeks. Not in the sun for 3 to 4 weeks, but at room temperature. So generally, growth hormone that has been shipped, that is pharmaceutical grade, comes to you at full potency, because of the fact of those preservatives, or the freeze dried, and then the vacuum seal that it has inside the pen to allow it to not have any contaminants in there, and it keeps it good, keeps the proteins of the growth hormone good. So if you can, if your growth hormone come to you, your Norditropin, your Genotropin that you want to get, if it gets to you, in 3 to 4 weeks, well, it's going to be great quality. It's going to be a great product. The second question he had was, does HCG need to be stored in the cold? So HCG is more resilient than growth hormone, but generally it should be stored in the fridge. Like, you can store it at room temperature, in like a dark place or something, like in a drawer. It can be stored like that for a long time. I'm talking months, and it won't degrade. But the manufacturer's recommendation is that it should be kept in the fridge, so that's definitely the best place to keep it. But like I said, it's a lot more resilient than growth hormone. So growth hormone, it's more vital that you get it in the fridge, okay? So like if you got growth hormone shipped to you, you need to put it in the fridge and never take it out of the fridge again, except for when you're using it. But with HCG, it's a little bit more not so like you need to do this quickly. But if you use the HCG, once you mix it and then you leave it out of the fridge for like 24 hours, that will kill it. It'll be bunk. So once you mix it, the HCG is also very fragile and needs to stay in the fridge at all times. All right, and Elias had a third question. You know, he had some good questions here, so I wanted to answer all of them. He says, much love from Sweden. Question, he's planning his next cycle, thinking about giving growth hormone a try, mostly for fat burning and staying lean. 22 years old, so not sure if still produce growth hormone much naturally. Plan to start 2 IUs a day and increase the dose to 5 to 6 IUs. Will the growth hormone give me the great effects like it gives you, even though my young age? Yeah, so when a person is a teenager, their growth hormone gets really high, their natural growth hormone, something like 5 IUs a day. And that's what causes their bones to grow. But then after they're done growing, after they've finished puberty, that level drops off very significantly to only a fraction of that, to where an adult who is not growing anymore, they've finished growing, is only producing about 1 IU of growth hormone per day or less, 0.5 to 1 IUs of growth hormone a day. And then that response is the response to the dosage of growth hormone is pretty similar, like, to the response to the dosages of testosterone. You know, in order to get like a really significant response from testosterone, you need to take, minimum 500 milligrams a week, to get any kind of super physiological response. Testosterone, which is it's about 3 times like your natural production. And it's pretty much the same with growth hormone, to get any kind of you can get a response definitely from 2 IUs, but to get like a more super physiological response, like 3 IUs, and to get like, damn, this stuff is really working, it's like 4 to 6 IUs, pretty similar to the way testosterone is, 4 times, 5 times the natural amount that you produce, 750 milligrams or so. Yeah, that stuff's fucking working. But it does work definitely at 2 IUs a day. It will act on you even if you are young, but definitely if you're still growing, do not take it. But if you're sure you've finished growing, then take it. Like I was saying, though, for a lot of guys, it's really going to benefit to add the T4 thyroid hormone. So one of the things is that taking steroids reduces your thyroid hormone output, and taking growth hormone also reduces your thyroid hormone output. So you can get kind of a low thyroid hormone output from doing those things. Taking trenbolone reduces your thyroid hormone output as well, significantly more than other steroids. Which is one of the reasons why you gain weight easier on steroids. Your metabolism is more susceptible to gaining weight because your thyroid hormone is down, so you're not letting off as much energy. You're not going as fast. You've got your muscle going on, and energy is going to the muscles, and it's kind of building up there, but it's not just being released in the heat response. You do get heated up, so it's a complicated process, okay? But the thyroid hormone does go down, and it is a significant factor of the reason why steroids make you gain weight when you start taking them, even if it's hard for you to gain weight. So I would recommend, supplementing with 200 micrograms of T4 thyroid hormone with your growth hormone. And, if you want to use metformin with it too, I would also recommend that. In my opinion, using using growth hormone is good by itself. But if you use growth hormone, thyroid hormone, and insulin, it's a night and day difference. And if you don't want to use insulin, you can use metformin. So you use growth hormone, thyroid hormone, and metformin, and it's also a night and day difference from using growth hormone alone. Pro tip. So the next question, Marco asks, question for your next podcast: how to deal with extreme lethargic on high dose of steroids. What do pros do against lethargy? Okay, so if your steroids are causing you extreme lethargy, that's not a good sign. It's a sign that you need to change something. So, for example, if you're taking a lot of orals, that will cause lethargy, usually. Signs of this would be thinking like, I don't like the gym anymore, or something like that. Or I don't want to stand up. It costs too much energy. I'm lethargic. You know, if you're feeling like that, it's a bad sign, and you need to pull back on the dosage. That's a marker, for, how much steroids can I use? Well, when do you feel sick? If you're feeling sick, you should pull back. Now, there's an exception to that. When you first start, you're going to have test flu for a couple weeks. As your body gets used to, you're going to have the flu. As your body gets used to this new intruder, high levels of male hormone inside of you. But and the same thing happens when you start trenbolone, basically every time you start using it for about a week. If you're getting a lot of lethargy, you want to take out the oral steroids. They do that. Usually if you're on only injectables, you are not lethargic. That would be very uncommon. Your blood pressure could be high. If you are not using orals and you're only using injectable steroids and you're still feeling very lethargic, it's probable that your blood pressure is out of range. Personally, I'm genetically predisposed to high blood pressure. It took me a while taking steroids to realize what I needed to do to fix that, which I wish I would have figured it out earlier, but I take a blood pressure medication, telmisartan. I take 80 milligrams a day every day for my blood pressure. And man, has that ever been a great thing for me, having my blood pressure be in the good range instead of the bad range. Since I have genetically high blood pressure, it runs in my family. I'm on the higher side without steroids, and when I add in steroids, man, it really skyrockets. So I would definitely advise to take a look at your blood pressure. If you've got high blood pressure, you're not going to be feeling good, and lethargy is definitely a side effect of it. And the next question from Dimitri. Question for the podcast. What's better training-wise, doing a push-pull legs or a bro split? Seems like a lot of pros I listen to do the bro split. Yeah, a lot of pros do the bro split. A lot of pros are also very strong, and they didn't always do the bro split. When you got to make sure that you know what guys did when they were coming up, when they were getting to the point that they're at now. It's very uncommon that pros are not able to bench press, 3 plates for 15 reps, for example, or, 4 plates for a few reps. So if you're not doing that and doing a bro split is not causing that to happen for you, you need to change your program so that you're getting closer to that, because having that strength foundation is what then allows you to do the volume like a bro split would. Where you're getting enough volume with the heavy enough weights where the muscles are growing really large. But, if you're benching 2 plates for 8 reps and then you're doing a bro split, that's going to heavily inhibit the amount of gains that you have if your bro split is not causing your bench press to keep on going up. And it's the same thing like with your squat strength and other compound free weight exercise strength. These pros are very strong, okay? And they may be doing a bro split now, but it's likely that they did something else to acquire the strength that they have now. Push-pull legs is good for strength. You don't need a complicated routine for working out and getting big. Until you have a really good strength base, it's very beneficial to use very simple, basic routines that work. Practicing the exercises that give the most bang for your buck, the most results, practicing them a lot. So doing things like squatting twice a week, bench pressing twice a week, doing bent over rows twice a week, maybe one from the floor, one in the air, doing pull-ups a few times a week, doing barbell curls a few times a week. You need to be doing these basic exercises a lot and getting good at them. Part of getting good at them, getting strong at them, is doing them frequently. And able to do them frequently, you need lower volume. So you need less work per workout, but more attempts throughout the week. That works really good for acquiring strength. Push-pull legs is good. It's a good routine, but I would also recommend for a lot of you guys that are thinking, I want to, if you're thinking something like, oh, I need to build my upper chest, I need to make it even to my lower chest, or you're like, I need to build my lower lats, I need to bring them up so that they match my upper lats. If you're thinking stuff like that, it's likely that you're just not big enough, and you need to grow the whole muscle, and those things will start filling in when you do that. And it's likely that you need to get better at the basics. Doing more of a powerlifting routines like Mad Cow 5x5 or Starting Strength by Mark Ripto, or more of a bodybuilding version of Starting Strength. You can easily find that on the internet. Even though it says the word starting in it, doesn't mean that it's not going to work for you because you've been in the gyms for a few years or you're on steroids. It's going to fucking work, and you're going to get stronger, and you're going to get bigger, and the whole muscle is going to get bigger, top to bottom. And you need that strength. Highly recommend it. Doing workouts. I like full body workouts. I like upper, lower. I like back, chest, legs, kind of like going through that rotation and throwing in biceps with the back, triceps with the chest, and legs. And doing those workouts like twice a week, one with emphasis on the front of the leg, one with emphasis on the back of the leg. I like that. But I also am a huge fan of full body workouts. So going into the gym and doing something like 6 sets of 10 bench press, dumbbells or flat, dumbbells or barbell, or incline dumbbell, and then next, and maybe even like supersetting that with like bent over barbell rows, or going over next to the bent over barbell rows, and sometimes doing dumbbell rows instead. And then as the and doing 6 sets of 10 again, and then as the last exercise, doing like stiff leg deadlift, like Romanian deadlift, or normal deadlift, or squat. If I'm doing the normal deadlift, it's going to be lower. It's probably going to be lower reps. If I'm doing the Romanian deadlift, it's going to be higher reps. Again, six sets of 10 reps, something like that. Other times I might be going to something like 5 sets of 5 reps, etc. 4 sets of 15. Something in there. So I'm going to also throw in at some point during the week some light bicep work, some light tricep work, some calf work, doing something like that. But hitting those full body workouts, probably like 4 days a week like that, hitting those big lifts, it works really good. And if you do a full body workout like that, you're only hitting, like 6 sets of 10 or something like that, so 60 reps per body part. And you can keep on going in. You can keep on going back to the gym over and over again and practicing those exercises because you didn't totally burn your shit out, doing a total of like 150 or 200 reps or something, going so deep. And you're able to gain more strength like that. I'm able to make great progress on full body workouts. I'm a huge fan. Next question. Barbarian asks, huge fan of the podcast. Just had a question. I'm 29, 195 pounds. Been taking 250 milligrams of Cypionate per week for the last year. Ever since I've been using testosterone, my face looks puffy and chubby. Sometimes my fingers fall asleep and I breathe heavy. Figured it's either high estrogen or high blood pressure. I've used Arimidex, but I always feel in a miserable mood when I take Arimidex, so I don't like using it. Do you think taking a water pill would help to reduce puffy face? I also have a urination issue. I have to go every 5 minutes, it feels like. My urologist prescribed me Flomax, but it hasn't really helped. It definitely sounds like you have high estrogen and like you said, high blood pressure. I mean, your self-diagnosis sounds good. If Arimidex is making you feel like shit, I would recommend trying exemestane and seeing if that helps you feel better. And if that's still making you feel like shit, try Nolvadex and see if that helps you feel better. You're going to have to fiddle around a little bit. Fiddling around with the steroids, that's part of the game. Everybody's got to figure out what agrees with them and what doesn't. And it's not the same for everybody. What works for one guy can work horrendously for another guy. I always, I have this friend that uses at least 5,000 milligrams of pharmaceutical grade test a week, and he doesn't use AI, and he doesn't have any side effects, like no bloat or anything, or no estrogen. And I'm always laughing about that because I'm like, if I did that, like I would have tits and I'd be this puffer fish, probably like have a heart attack from high blood pressure. So that's a really good example of like, two people can do the same thing and have completely different results. It's really odd that you're having such, significant problems on only 250 milligrams of Cypionate per week. I would recommend taking if it was me, I would take the blood pressure medication. The Telmisartan one, that's what I would take. If you have high blood pressure, it can definitely put more pressure on your bladder, prostate area and make you feel like you need to urinate more. So since you're on low-dose testosterone already and the Arimidex makes you feel like shit, the next thing that I would do if it was me is I would try taking the Telmisartan 80 milligrams per day for the blood pressure and see if that helped. And then after that, I'd fiddle with exemestane, fiddle with Nolvadex, because you got to troubleshoot. You got to troubleshoot and figure out what works for you. Doctors troubleshoot with medications too. They're like, oh, well, we'll try you on this and see how it goes, and then you'll come back and we'll see if we need to change the dosage or put you on something else. It's a normal part of taking medication. You have to try it, troubleshoot it, see how it goes, change it. I might, if it was a really big problem that was not going away, I might go as far as, even halving the testosterone dose, or doing what we talked about on the last episode where you just use a different hormone like deca or equipoise as your base. You don't use testosterone. If you're, getting intolerable side effects on 250 milligrams a week. Jeff has the next question. I know a lot of guys that are motivated to work out because of steroids, and if they didn't have them, they might not hit the gym at all. Do you think it's healthier long-term to be jacked on moderate steroids or a standard overweight American? It's an interesting question. I think it's about the same. The standard overweight, non-exercising American has some cholesterol issues, some blood pressure issues, blood lipid issues, and atherosclerotic, where the veins are kind of building up, kind of inflamed issues. It's pretty similar. It's pretty similar. The way that I think it is it's like, yeah, if you just live a normal American lifestyle, I mean, I'm not talking about like a totally obese motherfucker. I'm talking about like just a normal person who is just, you know, they could go outside and they could run a mile in like 8 minutes or something like that. You know, it's just like a normal freaking person. They're not a fat ass. They're just normal. And they don't just constantly eat shit, you know, Twinkies, Doritos. They eat some shit like every day, and they're not eating, you know, a health food diet. They're just eating the standard American stuff, European stuff. I think it's about the same if you're using steroids and working out a lot and eating healthy. You're trading your risks. You know, don't be that person who uses the steroids as a crutch and then puts the standard unleaded gasoline in his car. You got to put the premium super unleaded gasoline in your car because you're supercharging the car, okay? Your body. All right? So eat a very healthy diet. You know, cheat sparingly. Eat a very healthy diet. Exercise every day. Take your steroids. You know, you're probably on about the same level of health as those other guys, as those obese, not the obese motherfuckers, as the normal American, the average American who's not an obese motherfucker. Dennis asks, question for the amazing podcast. My dad is 71 years old and he's open-minded about TRT. That's cool. Unusual. But due to the culture of treating low testosterone in my country, it's almost impossible to get help. If they help, it would be with testosterone cream. They tell him he is in the lower range of the scale for his age group when they measure his testosterone. Wow, it must be seriously low then, because lower range for a 71-year-old. My mom is 12 years younger and my dad has low sex drive and is tired every day. Should I help him? Yeah, you know, the testosterone cream is going to work really good for your dad. Testosterone cream doesn't work good for muscle building, but for the physiological effects, or sorry, for the psychological effects, the well-being effects of testosterone, absolutely. It'll go right into his brain, help him have more energy, help him feel more the way he did mentally when he was 40 years old. I would expect that. Because your behavior changes according to your hormones. Absolutely. Older men act different than younger men. And they didn't always act that way. It's primarily because of the hormones changing as you get older. They influence your behavior. And when you restore his hormone levels, you could expect his behavior and to some effect his energy levels reverting back to more when he was about 40 years old, and the testosterone cream works very good for that. The testosterone cream does not work for building muscles. It does not work for bodybuilding, okay? But for well-being type of things, it's very good. Another one that is very good, if you can get it, is Proviron. That's made for older men who have depression, low energy, low libido, and yeah, it works very good. You know, Proviron is an extremely strong sex drive stimulant. So if you use 50 milligrams Proviron a day, for example, with your TRT, if you're like a normal dude on TRT, it'll at least double your desire for sex, the amount of thoughts you're having about sex, etc. It goes straight to your brain. And it's meant for old men who have that problem. Yeah, I think you should go ahead and get your dad on the testosterone cream. That's a good idea. Toby asks, question for the podcast. On a strict meal plan that involves only bodybuilding type foods, chicken, rice, broccoli, eggs, berries, I feel great. Yesterday I had my Easter cheat day and ate everything in sight. I'm carbed up to the max and got a lot of water retention. I wanted to do my usual 20 minutes of running for cardio today, but couldn't even finish half of it because my shins got so pumped that it really started to hurt and made it impossible to move properly. Is this normal after such a fat cheat? I'm also on 250 milligrams Test-D, but don't know if that has anything to do with it. Thanks in advance. Yeah, it does. Not the testosterone really, but the testosterone to some extent, right? Because it's allowing you to have some kind of super physiological compensation for the big meal that you had on the Easter, carved up to the max. You know, for every gram of carbohydrates that you eat, it brings 2 grams of water into your body. Carbohydrate, they are very hydrating. So, I mean, the hydration effect is a huge part of why they make your muscles so much bigger looking when you take them in full. Because the muscles become hydrated. You know, when they're full like that, the muscles are full, there's pressure on them. It's going to feel a lot different than when they're more sucked down. They don't have as much carbohydrate fuel storage in them. There's more stretchy room inside the muscle tissue. But when you're totally carbed up and shit, oh yeah, it's very common to have difficulty moving, locking up, getting very extreme painful pumps like in your feet and your fingers, stuff like that. You know, and some steroids too that you know, they can cause that very glycogen promoting steroids such as Androgel, Dianabol. I mean, even Anavar and Winstrol can make you, like, especially in your feet, like in your feet or in your shins, just above your ankles, the ankle area, can definitely make you feel more of that feeling of like, ow, it hurts to walk, and I feel really stiff, and like I'm having like a pump or soreness, stiffness in my ankle and foot area, my shin area. You know, even Metformin does it, because Metformin increases the amount of carbohydrate fuel storage, the glycogen storage that your muscles can hold by 30%. So, I mean, it's actually a pretty big contributor to that. You know, Metformin, I've said before, taking 2,000 milligrams of Metformin per day has the same effect appearance-wise, pretty much as taking like 50 to 100 milligrams of Anadrol a day, because it pumps you up so much with so much more carbohydrate fuel storage. So, yeah, what you're going through is totally normal. Eat a bunch of carbs. There's a lot more pressure inside your body. Blood pressure goes up. Pressure inside your muscle cells goes up. And a lot more stiffness, a lot more pumps. Kay asks, hey, brother, question for the podcast. I'm on a cycle, 600 tren ace and 625 Test-D. If I want to swipe my test out for Cypionate, how would I go about it? Well, Test-D and Cypionate are more or less the same. You know, they're different esters, but they're similar ester lengths. They have undetectable differences in the effect. So they both last in the body for about a week. They both peak after 24 hours. They both stay elevated for about 4 days and then start dropping off between day 4 and 7. You can just switch anytime you want. You can just switch right over to the Test-D. Or you could just alter. You could take Test-C one shot, Test-E the next shot, Test-C, Test-E, and then just fully switch over after you've done it a couple times. But you don't need to do that. You can just switch right over to the Test-D, and you won't even be aware that you switched. It'll be very fluid. Casper asks, hey, Dan, got a question. Don't know if you've touched on this in one of your episodes, but here it comes. Is there any way to prevent acne during cycle and PCT. Also, if you get acne, is there any ways to minimize or remove it? Yeah. So estrogen is a major cause of acne. If your estrogen gets high, you will likely get acne. So you need to keep your estrogen in range. Number one, some people have acne problems. They have acne before steroids, or they had acne when they were younger that kind of comes back when they started taking steroids. That's more unusual. But for guys that have some acne before they use steroids and then start using steroids, usually it goes up. And then, even taking care of their estrogen, it's not going to stop it. It's going to, be worse than before. This is a very easy one to solve. You just go to your doctor and ask them for antibiotics for acne, and they're more than happy to prescribe the antibiotics for acne. And you take them for months. You just take them as long as you need them. The antibiotics, tetracycline, doxycycline, minocycline. There's a bunch of different antibiotics that work for acne. And it works very good to prevent acne on steroids or off steroids. What acne is it's there's bacteria, primarily staph bacteria, just covering your entire body and your skin. It's normal, and when it gets into the pore, it creates a little infection in there in your skin, and then your body isolates it, produces pus in the pore, isolates the infection from the rest of the skin, the rest of the body. And then eventually, it pops out, explodes, and, purges the infection. So what the antibiotics do is they make your body an inhospitable place for the staph bacteria to be in. And so they can't live anymore in your body. They can't live in your skin. So they can't get in your pores and create acne by causing a little infection in there. So the antibiotics destroy the acne from the inside out of the body. They're really effective. There's a 2-week purge period, though, when you first start taking it, where you'll get worse acne. Aaron asks, question for the pod. Can you use metformin to acutely block calorie absorption when having a cheat meal? Yes. And it works very well for that, but it's going to be uncomfortable. When you don't use metformin consistently, there's going to be gastrointestinal disruption. You're going to have diarrhea. You're going to have gas. So if you drop 1,000 milligrams of metformin after your cheat meal, it's going to help you not absorb it, and you're going to have diarrhea and farting, gas. It's going to be uncomfortable, but yes, it will work for what you said. I don't really like using it for that because it's uncomfortable. I'd rather just pop an Anadrol. And Sanus asks, I have a question about trenbolone. I've heard you mention how most high-tier bodybuilders run deca and tren together in the same cycle. Looking to do this, but what is the minimum dosage of tren to elicit the recomp effects while not shooting my prolactin through the roof? I'm already taking 850 tests, 600 equipoise, and 300 to 500 NPP. Would 175 tren be enough since I have all the other compounds in? Yeah, actually, that's exactly what I would have recommended. The lowest dosage of tren ace that will have an effect, and it will have an effect, is about 150 milligrams a week. So, for example, if I used 1,000 milligrams of testosterone per week, 1,000 milligrams of primobolan per week, I could take 2 shots a week of 75 milligrams trenbolone acetate, and it would make a noticeable difference in my strength in the gym. And the metabolic effects would be there a little bit. So if you've got high other steroids in running and you just add a little bit of tren, yeah, you can just run a little bit, like 225 milligrams a week, 150 milligrams per week, 175 milligrams per week, and it can make a difference. It's actually works very well that way. So that you can use a little bit of tren and get the tren effects without having to push the tren. I don't think anyone really likes pushing the tren. It just doesn't feel good. If you take enough too, it can make you shake, and then it's all weird because that's socially unacceptable to be like shaking all the time. Okay, last question for the day. Found your podcast a few days ago. This is from Keith. Been listening nonstop, can't get enough. I'm 35, been in the gym for a few years, and over the last few months, I've found I just can't get any bigger, so steroids it is. After all the info on your podcast, only problem is I'm not sure what it will take. Will it be okay to take in my situation as I'm a diabetic? I use Nova Rapid and Lantus. I'm on TRT 250 milligrams per week. My A1C, his fasted blood glucose, has never been better since the TRT was started. Is there anything you can point me in the right direction with, or anything you would suggest to stay away from? Any advice would be amazing. Thanks for the great content on the podcast. So it's pretty interesting, but usually TRT for type 2 diabetics, I'm assuming you're a type 1 diabetic. Type 2 is acquired diabetes. Type 1 is born with it. Diabetes is when you can't produce insulin, or you can't produce enough insulin to cover the glucose of your blood, so that the glucose builds up and causes damage to your organs. So taking testosterone, taking TRT, for a lot of type 2 diabetics, that solves their diabetes. The first line of defense that's prescribed for type 2 diabetics is usually metformin. And then after that, they start prescribing them insulin. But testosterone is a better, in my opinion, in my non-doctor opinion, better option, because testosterone directly sensitizes your muscle cells to insulin. And for example, if you take metformin without taking hormones with it, it will reduce your hormones by 50%. So, if you take metformin, it makes your muscle cells more sensitive to insulin, but at the same time, it reduces your testosterone 50%, which then reduces your sensitivity to insulin. It makes a lot more sense to just go on testosterone, and that's what you said happened with you. You went on testosterone, and your fasted blood glucose is now lower than it's ever been because the testosterone, you raised up your hormones, and that directly sensitized your muscle cells to insulin. So now a smaller amount of insulin is required in order to drain the glucose from your blood and get them into the cells. Doing something like stacking metformin with testosterone would also work very well, because that would even make you more sensitive, but not the other way around. See, not taking metformin without testosterone, but taking testosterone first and then metformin on top of the testosterone has a synergistic effect to, really make you very sensitive, your muscle cells specifically, not your fat cells, very sensitive to insulin. What I would recommend is staying away from growth hormone as a diabetic. Growth hormone decreases the insulin sensitivity of your fat cells, not your muscle cells. It's arguable about your muscle cells, okay? It's arguable because there's different conflicting metabolic mechanisms going on from growth hormones. Some, like for example, IGF-1, insulin-like growth factor 1 has an insulin-like effect at the muscle cell insulin receptor, allowing it to be more sensitive. But then the actual growth hormone molecule has some metabolic pathways that like desensitize it. So it ends up about even. It's a debatable issue and very complex. Not going to get into it. But I would recommend staying away as a diabetic from growth hormone in general, because it does directly, severely decrease the insulin sensitivity of your fat cells, which is why people lose fat on growth hormone, because the fat cells are basically blocked from the effects of insulin. It blocks them, and which makes it so that they're a one-way street where basically fatty acids can go out, but no energy can go into the fat cell. So when you take growth hormone, usually your blood glucose rises something like 10 points, for some people even 20 points, because their fat cells are no longer taking in energy, and because their fat cells are releasing fatty acids into the bloodstream, raises their blood sugar. But as a diabetic, as far as I'm aware, normal steroid hormones, male hormones, shouldn't have negative effects on you. It's really something though that you should do your own research about that, because you probably should speak with a doctor about it, because you're taking a bunch of drugs for your diabetes, and you need to know how they interact. And taking stuff like insulin, you're taking these different insulins, it's very sensitive. It's very sensitive, and if you make mistakes with those drugs, you can get in trouble. For example, these steroids making you very sensitive to insulin, overly sensitive to insulin, or a steroid plus metformin combo making you oversensitive to insulin, and then you taking your normal dosage of insulin, it being too much, that crashing your blood sugar and sending you into a coma, because now you're far too sensitive to insulin, and your normal dosage of insulin is having an astronomical effect on your body because of your high sensitivity, and then causing you to get in trouble. So that's the thing with insulin, guys, is that it's so fast acting that one mistake can cause catastrophic consequences. Whereas for people who are not using insulin, just using steroids, that's not the way it is. One mistake doesn't cause catastrophic consequences. Making one mistake with insulin can kill you, and diabetics die every year from miscalculating insulin use. It's usually from taking too much and going into a coma and dying from that. So I would watch out with that if I was you. You're using steroids, I would watch out with how much insulin you're using. You need to be very careful about your increased insulin sensitivity from using steroids and your normal dosages of insulin. All right, that was the last question of the day, guys. Glad to be back here recording more episodes with you guys. Love chatting with you guys. Love doing the 1 hour phone call consultations with you guys, and the guys that do the 1 month daily text messaging with me, where they send me their bodybuilding questions and I answer their questions every day. Love talking with you guys. Love it that you guys like to listen to the Steroid podcast so much. You guys like this, and it's fun helping you guys. I can, from talking with you guys, that's a big benefit for me, is you guys having success and seeing that the information being supplied on the podcast is helping everybody out, because most people are good guys. They're not guys that want to scam people. They're not guys that want to, take advantage of people. They don't want half-truths. They just want the truth. They just want stuff dished to them straight, So that's what I'm doing, and obviously I'm under attack from the people that want to keep the secrets hidden, want to keep the truth hidden, and so you guys appreciating the podcast, seeing you guys get results from the podcast, because I definitely see that people send me their transformations before and after listening to the podcast, and it's absurd. Major body transformation. So it's very rewarding. Very rewarding. I like seeing you guys succeed. So make sure to pick up Ultimate Guide to ROIDS, 109-page ebook by Dan the Bodybuilder from Thailand. To hold you over to the next episode, it will definitely be, soon. It's not going to be a long wait like the next one. I am not sick anymore. And I will see you guys next time.
If you would like your questions to be answered on the Steroids podcast, go to steroidspodcast.com and leave a comment with your questions, or email or private message steroidspodcast@gmail.com or steroidspodcast on Instagram. Until next time.